Hello, Atia. I'm so glad that you're joining me today from Karachi, Pakistan, where you live with your family. And for those that don't know you, Atia, you are a clinical psychologist, and you and I met a while ago through the grief community because we are two moms who have lost a child.
That's
So
right.
that's in a sense the reason that I'm doing these interviews with people is to kind of is to make it really real through our personal stories of how this event changed our lives, how we got through, and then what we're doing today with what's happened. So I won't go too much into credentials because you're very credentialed, and I'm really honored that you're joining me here today. But if someone wanted to get in touch with you, I'm going to put your Facebook link so that they can reach you. And then I'll also start by saying that yesterday, and I so appreciate you being here with me today, because yesterday was your son Ahmad's second Angelversary. And for people that don't know what Angelversary means, it is the anniversary of their transition, and so we call it Angelversary. And that was just yesterday, and I know it's such a difficult time, so I'm really honored that you're here in that vulnerability, and that I'm really going to ask you to just share about your relationship with Ahmad, because that's number one. That's really the most important thing.
So, hello to you, Basia,
Thank
and
you.
thank you um, for allowing me to speak and speak about my child. I think, as any parent would say, the chance to speak about our children who've transitioned to people who are interested in listening is a huge privilege. And I think, if I may say that, it is across the board without any cultural divide. The chance to speak Emad's name and to hear his name from someone who's never met him is a privilege, is a blessing. So thank you for that, Basha. As to your question, my relationship with Emad, um, it brings a smile to my face, and I think that says it all. Um, uh, in my country, we have a very different culture. There is a hierarchy. But Imad and I became best friends. I was a very strict mother initially. He was my firstborn. I had him when I was 23. Um, but then we eventually, after his teenage years, I found it was much easier to be his friend. And I think he started to teach me things, savory and unsavory, and he's still doing that. Uh, he still continues to be my teacher, maybe unseen and unheard in the neurological sense, but he's felt around me at all times, and I'm so grateful for that. Yeah. And we
That's
had a fun relationship. We had such a fun relationship. I mean, in Pakistan, it would be unheard, but um, children don't smoke in front of their parents, or they don't have a drink in front of their parents. Imad introduced me to smoking. He would call me a loser for not having had a smoke. So that's how close and friends we were, and I'm honored and grateful for having had that, even if for a short time.
Oh my gosh, it just fills me up to hear you talk about Ahmad. Of course, I've heard other stories as well, and you and I have chatted well before this and formed a bond because of our kids. And I just love how present he is. When you talk about him, I have images of the ones that you've shared online, and we're
Mhm.
in these closed Facebook groups, and we really they are present for us, as you say, and they're not frozen in the past. They're part of our lives, and that's what allows us to actually laugh and to actually feel connected and happy and joyful because of the things that happen and the things that have happened and the ways that we share with each other. So thank you so much for that. And in case it got lost, you said, he said to you, like, Mom, you're such a loser.
Yes, he did. He would say that quite often when he had to teach me something, whether it was
Oh
on
my
the
gosh.
internet or technology. Yeah.
Yeah. And he
So
was the guy that got you on LinkedIn, right?
yes,
He got you
he
set.
he set up my LinkedIn account too.
Yeah. So that's got to be a special place too, that, you know, that he set that up, you know.
Oh yes, oh
Yes.
yes, so many
So
of them.
beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
So beautiful. Um, so the, you mentioned cultural differences in a brief way, but you and I have talked off this recording about how that actually is, and I think that's really interesting and can provide value to people, just to understand that there's not one way of living through grief. There's not one way, and sometimes another cultural perspective or can influence, you know, how we think about this, you know, at a time that we're going through it. So how is that? How was that for you? What happens in Pakistan regarding death?
Um, so I think, regardless of culture, emotions are the same world over. You know, but culture plays a very important role in the sense there are rituals, there are, there are ways, and in our country, um, there are very set rituals. We're very, very kind to. We're never left alone. For 40 days, I didn't need to turn on my stove because there was food coming in. There were people, they wouldn't leave me alone, leave any of us alone. Um, it's There's a lot of love, but I also feel sometimes, and I don't know, in the West or back at home, there's almost a cultural bind sometimes that we have to be a certain way. So in Pakistan, I might have to be the deeply grieving mom, but I've picked up what I have from the Western world, that we have to move on.
Mm.
Neither are really a textbook measure. Neither, whether I continue to grieve or I move on. I think what we really need is the space to explore as to how and what works for us. So there are four of us, Emad's two siblings and my husband and I. All four of us grieve very differently. But there is an expectation from the mother to grieve a certain way, from the father to grieve a certain way. And I can speak from my country. My children, when they started to show a lot more emotion than was expected, they were immediately told to take care of the parents. And I think that was a bit not very savory for them and their modern children. My daughter studied in Rome. So there was a pushback from the kids as to, I also am grieving. And I really want to say this in my experience that, as parents, yes, we've just been distracted, but we still have a lot more resources than the siblings who've probably never seen a death in their lives. And there is a tendency they might fall through the cracks in these moments of grief. Even us as parents sometimes tend to overlook what my surviving child may need.
Yeah.
And I think
I'm sorry.
yes,
Go
please
ahead.
go on. So I was just saying that over these last 2 years, I can speak for myself that it's very easy to stay immersed in the grief of a child who's lost in the physical world from me. But it's as easy to lose the other two children if we are not careful.
Oh, that's so important. Oh my gosh. Because I do hear also from siblings and step parents, also people that are not the, you know, the parents or particularly the mother, that they're asked siblings are often asked, well, how's your mother doing? How's your father
Yeah.
doing? As if their
Yes.
own grief was not only secondary but tertiary,
Yeah.
and not even on the radar. And yeah, you're right. They have grief as well, and they're losing. Often they lose a piece of their parent also. The fun-loving, joyful parent or the person they can rely on is now broken. So that can be very
They lose the home as they knew it.
yes.
I think they lose the home as they knew it. And we all
Mhm.
need to acknowledge that home can never be recreated, where there was
Yeah.
another family member in our home, the fifth one, or in my case, the first of my three children. That home will never be the same. Our photographs will never have five members standing. You know, however, rather than looking at what could have been and what is never going to be, um, we have found, um, each one of us have found a new purpose, a new normal. So in my case, since I'm talking to you, I'll take the lead. In my case, I chose to spoke about the manner in which Emad died. He died of a suicide. And in my country, in Pakistan, um, it's not only is it still a crime, but it's also religious absolute damnation and eternal damnation. So the religious clergy would refuse to read the funeral prayers.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
that bad, yeah. Um, and in that country, we chose as a family to honor my son's choice. We don't have to agree to all the choices, but children will do a lot of things that we don't have to agree. We will continue to love and honor them.
Hmm.
And I would choose to look at Imad's life of how beautiful a child, how loving a child he has been for the last 24 years. And if he were succumbed to take a choice or to make a choice of ending his life, that's not what defines him. That's not what defines my child.
Mm. So
What defines
beautiful.
him
Yeah.
is, yeah. So I spoke very openly that I, being a psychotherapist, a clinical psychologist, I had no clue and my child died of a suicide. I took that flag. It could have been a professional suicide too. Um, but for me, it was more important to honor my son in the last service that we could do for him. Or in the, sorry, or I would like to say, in the first of many new services that we could now do for him.
And I think that's why I'm so drawn to you is your authenticity, because you did say something there that is just so true. You know, that could have been your professional suicide right there, is to openly speak of what did happen in your personal life. But you turned it instead. You went forward and turned it into your strength. And with the term strength, I know that that happens here in the Western culture, and also by you, that people will say to you, "Oh, you're so strong. You're so strong." And how does that affect you?
I think as a fellow mother and anyone who's listening, it's one of the most unsavory statements that we have to receive. And the only thing is the person who says it to us is saying it from a good intention. They're not really with the intent to harm us. They don't probably know what else to say. So I look at the intention, but I cringe. I never wanted to be this strong person. I wanted to be this floozy, crazy woman who had no clue, no depth, lived for a good meal and a hearty party. Um, but I think with the transition of our child, uh, and I would say this for any mom, I think, a part of us transitions with them. I would like to say in my case, choose to believe that the part of me that transitioned with Emad, I guess, experienced some kind of a spiritual experience, a part of almost a death experience. And that's the time when I chose to make an intention to live and to carry my son's legacy forward instead of him carrying our legacy.
So beautiful.
So,
Yeah.
so the death or any challenge can either break us forever or maybe uh, rebirth us.
Mhm.
As our children rebirthed there, and I know a part of me as I was is no more, and I don't even look for her. I miss her sometimes, but a huge part is here for my other two children, and the part that is reborn after Imad is a very different woman. Her goals are different. Her demeanor is different, and it's interesting to just observe, to just observe. I don't know where it will go. I have no clue.
Well, it's
But
one step and then the next, right? You're creating it as you go, day to day. But I will say that you and I would never have met had it not been for our sons. And I
yes,
often think about them as being on the other side together, along with all the other kids and loved ones that whose paths we cross. And it's one big party up there for sure, or out
I
there.
do. I do want to use your platform to reach out to all the other parents who are listening, to all the other grievers, siblings, grandparents, anyone, friends. I really want to tell you every moment passes, even the darkest of nights, and even the happiest of times. Um, Yesterday was a really shit day for me. And the way I went about it, okay, let's get through the afternoon, let's get through the evening. So that is for the darkest moments. But what has helped our family, apart from the darkest and the day to day and minute to minute survival, is a long term goal also. Apart from the goals that we had in our lives, a goal that we have set aside for Imad. So each one of us does something for Imad for now to heal ourselves. And I started a support group. I spoke about suicide. My husband, my Imad was going to be a soccer coach. He had FIFA licenses. So my husband started a football academy for the underprivileged children in a very, very underpowered area. My daughter writes beautifully poetry. She's dedicated a thesis. My youngest son does shoe drives and does a lot of things, fundraisers for his brother's academy. It gives us a purpose. It gives us a sense of meaning in the moments. Oh shit, what do I do now? How do I live now? So
And
a part of
each thing
us.
that you described connects you to others. Each thing is that connection to others, to build community, and to that they, that you get up in the morning because they're there. You know that they are out there waiting and needing the service or the connection.
So I want to say that we haven't buried our son. As my daughter has written yesterday, and I don't know if I can remember the poetry exact, but we've planted him,
Oh,
uh, and for him to grow and blossom for others to benefit from.
oh,
And
that's
that's
so
how I
beautiful.
see Iman.
Really beautiful. Thank you, Atia. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing Ahmad with me and with others who will be watching this video. So beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Basia. Thank you very much.